Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat Shalom.
which is peace on Yahweh's Holy Sabbath Day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. As we know, we are in the, I've just began the 7th month, and we have several holy days within that 7th month. Yahweh is an Elohim of order, and he has things set up a certain way. But as it is written even in the beginning, Yahweh has made man upright, but man has made many inventions. And what we do is we get accustomed to the inventions of man and the things that man has set up. Once we get comfortable, we are creatures of habit, and then it makes it very difficult for us to break those habits. So when we get down, if you remember the things that we read just a couple days ago, we see that even in the time of Noah, when the water covered the earth, they didn't see it. There was not land visible until after the atonement. So the earth had to atone from the beginning. So when we get down to even in the things that the Messiah accomplished during the Passover, there's a part of that we miss within the Passover, and that is the atonement properties of that Passover. The children of Israel had to be cleansed coming out of Egypt, even from sins and things that they really didn't understand. They had been raised up around the gods of Egypt, and a lot of those things were deeply embedded into them. And we know it only took a couple days of them not seeing Moshe, and we automatically went right back to worshiping the gods of Egypt. And we had already seen the great things of Yahweh. We had already seen some great miracles, but even with that, just a little bit of separation, and we were back off into false idol worship. And we have to understand that the adversary uses that separation against you. There's a reason why it says, how can two walk together unless they be agreed? Whether you know it or not, the more you walk with people of strange cultures and strange nations, the more that stuff is going to seem regular to you. And as it becomes regular to you, you're going to start to pick up bits and pieces of it, whether you know it or not. So this is why Yahweh said, I'm going to leave these nations among you to prove you, to see whether or not you're going to follow my law or not. And we were given this name Israel so that we could be a representation of what is in heaven. We could be that earthly representation of that. But that means that we have to walk accordingly. Otherwise, we blaspheme that holy name by the which we are called. But before we get started, brother, would you read the oracles and entreat the angel that stands at the door to come in and sup with us and us with him, that we may make this a holy convocation by the angel's presence.
1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you are sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as dear children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather given of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth. Therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you, to keep you in the way, and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him, and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, we're going to begin today's sermon in Leviticus chapter 4. Leviticus chapter 4, we're going to start that at verse 1. And today's sermon is entitled The Reconciliation. The Reconciliation. Leviticus chapter 4, and we're going to start that at verse 1.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, If a soul shall sin through ignorance against any of the commandments of Yahweh concerning things which ought not to be done, and shall do against any of them, if the priest that is anointed to do sin according to the sin of the people, then let him bring for his sin, which he has sinned, a young bullock without blemish unto Yahweh for a sin offering.
The first thing that the children of Israel started worshiping. Why? Because the Egyptians worshiped those things. So all it took is a little bit of separation, and our people was right back off into it. Go ahead.
Verse 4. And he shall bring the bullock unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before Yahweh, and shall lay his hand upon the bullock's head, and kill the bullock before Yahweh.
And understand, just by the way things are designed, this would automatically make a big problem between us and the Egyptians. This is why we're saying, hey, we need to go 3 days journey and sacrifice to our Elohim. Because here it is, you talking about sacrificing their God. They worship this thing, and now you finna kill it. Go ahead.
And the priest that is anointed shall take of the bullock's blood, and bring it to the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall dip his finger in the blood, and sprinkle of the blood 7 times before Yahweh, before the veil of the sanctuary. And the priest shall put some of the blood upon the horns of the altar of sweet incense before Yahweh, which is in the tabernacle of the congregation, and shall pour all the blood of the bullock at the bottom of the altar of the burnt offering, which is at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation.
So whenever there was a sin committed, there then has to be some shedding of blood, and that blood then makes that atonement. Go ahead.
Verse 8. And he shall take off from it all the fat of the bullock for the sin offering, the fat that covers the inwards, and all the fat that is upon the inwards, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is upon them, which is by the flanks, and the caul above the liver, with the kidneys, it shall he take away. As it was taken off from the bullock of the sacrifice of peace offerings, and the priest shall burn them upon the altar of the burnt offering. And the skin of the bullock, and all his flesh, with his head, and with his legs, and with his inwards, and his dung, Even the whole bullock shall he carry forth without the camp unto a clean place, where the ashes are poured out, and burn him on the wood with fire. Where the ashes are poured out, shall he be burnt. And if the whole congregation of Israel sin through ignorance, and the thing be hid from the eyes of the assembly, and they have done somewhat against any of the commandments of Yahweh concerning things which should not be done, and are guilty, when the sin, which they have sinned against it, is known, then the congregation shall offer a young bullock for the sin, and bring him before the tabernacle of the congregation.
Right, when the sin which they have sinned against it is known. See, half the time the sin is not known because we're too enveloped in our own thing and what it is we want, what we feel, what we think, what we believe. So we don't even see how we have transgressed against Yahweh. Go ahead.
And the elders of the congregation shall lay their hands upon the head of the bullock before Yahweh, and the bullock shall be killed before Yahweh. And the priest that is anointed shall bring of the bullock's blood to the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall dip his finger in some of the blood, and sprinkle it 7 times before Yahweh, even before the veil.
So once again, even within that order, 7 times before Yahweh. So we have the creation of heaven and earth in 7 days is complete. Then he has the 7 holy days. Then he has the 7th holy day to be wrapped up within the 7th month. Yahweh is an Elohim of order. The adversary, the devil, wants to make you believe that this order is insignificant. That if you're dealing with this, you're dealing with some old law. This is what he tells his ministers, and his ministers tell his people, and his people come tell you. Go ahead.
Verse 18, Leviticus chapter 4 and verse 18. And he shall put some of the blood upon the horns of the altar, which is before Yahweh, that is in the tabernacle of the congregation, and shall pour out all the blood at the bottom of the altar of the burnt offering, which is at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And he shall take all his fat from him, and burn it upon the altar. And he shall do with the bullock as he did with the bullock for a sin offering, so shall he do with this. And the priest shall make an atonement for them, and it shall be forgiven them.
So then we see that this atonement, there then has to be some kind of loss that happens once a sin is committed. Let's go to our first off, we want to deal with the definition of this atonement. The word in Hebrew is kafar, which means to cover, placate, or cancel, appease, cleanse, disannul. It could mean these different things: forgive, pacify, pardon, or reconcile. See, when something is atoned for, it is reconciled. See, we've had situations where you might have had an altercation with somebody, and eventually the altercation was left alone, but it wasn't really reconciled. Y'all ain't arguing about it anymore. Y'all not dealing with it like that, but it hasn't been reconciled. See, when something is reconciled, it's done. Completely done. And when that happens, then there are some give and take that has to happen to reconcile something. A lot of times we just want to reconcile it by let's not talk about it anymore. That's not reconciling just because we're not talking about it. If I got stabbed in my leg, I mean, you know, I'm gonna still feel that wound there. So there's some things that has to be done for reconciliation to happen. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 17. And we're going to begin with verses 1 through 11.
Verse 1. And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Speak unto Aaron, and unto his sons, and unto all the children of Israel, and say unto them, This is the thing which Yahweh has commanded, saying, What man soever there be of the house of Israel, that kills an ox, or lamb, or goat in the camp, or that kills it out of the camp, and brings it not onto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, to offer an offering unto Yahweh before the tabernacle of Yahweh, blood shall be imputed on that man. He has shed blood, and that man shall be cut off from among his people.
Whatsoever man there be of the house of Israel that kills an ox or lamb or goat in the camp, or that kills it out of the camp, and brings it not unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, to offer an offering unto Yahweh. See, when we get down to what it is we're supposed to be about, our doings should match that thing. Like, you hear a whole lot of people talk about what they like, but there's a reason why when you're on the computer, certain advertisements pop up. That's because they know what you bought. See, you can tell by what somebody like by what they spend their time on and what they spend their money on. So people will tell you, you have people and they want to be, acceptable parents. So when people looking, they hugging and they doing all this stuff. Two things don't happen. They don't spend no time with their kids, and they don't spend no money on their kids. Something wrong with that. So when you talk about those things you love, you look for those two things. Where you spend your time and your money at. That's what you love. See, that's why I had to check myself with that football. I started watching football before you know it. I don't watch 3 games. It's 4 hours in one game. I'll be 12 hours. I've been done put the football all in the veins, Jack. I need a football IV. I'm just trying to slap it and get it right in there. So my mama used to date this man right before she married my stepdad. This only other man ever with me. A man named Starling. This is before they had picture in picture. He stacked up 5 TVs and he watched 5 football games at the same time. And he'd just be going just like that for the entire day. That's what I grew up watching. 5 TVs stacked on top of each other with a different football game on at the same time. And once you spend all your time with that, that's what you love. Don't try to fool somebody. Don't fool yourself. See, the problem is people fooling themselves thinking about what they love. No. What do you spend your time and money on? That's where your love at. Go ahead.
Verse 5. To the end that the children of Israel may bring their sacrifices, which they offer in the open field, even that they may bring them unto Yahweh, unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, unto the priests, and offer them for peace offerings unto Yahweh. And the priest shall sprinkle the blood upon the altar of Yahweh at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and burn the fat for a sweet savor unto Yahweh. And they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils, after whom they have gone a-whoring. This shall be a statute forever unto them throughout their generations.
All right. Ephraim, you can come up in here and lock that front door. That door is going to be locked in the front. If y'all get to the door and that door is locked, just push that. We put a doorbell right out there at the front. We end up having, sometimes people just wander in from off the street and it was just kids in the front. And I was not happy with that situation. So if you get to that door at all and it is locked, just push that doorbell, and we will make sure that is that somebody come up to the front. And if you leave out of that door, if you have to go out, that door needs to be locked behind you. Because a lot of times we go off and we're fellowshipping, and sometimes the kids will go out and they playing, and everybody else is fellowshipping, or people floating around somewhere else, and somebody just come and come up in the building, and we need to know that we're going to get a magnetic lock for that door here very shortly. But for the time being, that's what we're going to do to that. We will just be able to push the button and unlock the door later. Go ahead.
Leviticus chapter 17 and verse 9. And you shall say unto them, whatsoever man there be of the house of Israel, or of the strangers which sojourn among you, that offers a burnt offering or sacrifice, and brings it not unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, to offer it unto Yahweh, even that man shall be cut off from among his people. And whatsoever man there be of the house of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn among you, that eats any manner of blood, I will even set my face against that soul that eats blood, and will cut him off from among his people.
So when you get down to the people who are deciding to have their medium rare steak, they're not considering what it actually means. See, it's not just, oh man, that's nasty. Well, it is nasty, but it's a bit more than that. This blood means something. Go ahead.
Verse 11. For the life of the flesh is in the blood.
Right. So you're having the life of that animal. You're eating that. Go ahead.
And I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls.
So you eating atonement blood. Check that out. See, you got two different levels. You got the level of how disgusting that is. Then you have the situation that you are eating atonement blood. The blood was given to be placed on the altar to make an atonement for the sins. And you eating that? And this is what they put in the commercials, and they show us in the images this juicy steak, and it's half cooked. And we know that we've seen the things where some of the Africans will just poke the cow right in the neck and sit up under it and drink the blood coming out of the neck of the cow, saying that, believing that it's going to give them animal-like strength and tendencies. It's going to give you animal-like diseases is what it's going to give you. There's certain things that the fire does. The fire purifies. So all of them things that could harm you that's inside of it, the fire gets it out. And if you don't put it in the fire, you end up having a problem. Go ahead.
You know, this whole atonement blood and that we've been talking about here, we constantly see it's the bullock that he's referring to. Mm-hmm. And that steak is that bullock that they love to show us, medium rare.
Love it. They love showing us. They don't even, show us lamb or goat or anything like that. We don't even know nothing about that kind of stuff. But they love showing us that one right there, medium rare. That's what got us into trouble in the first place. Go ahead.
And I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls. For it is the blood that makes an atonement for the soul. Therefore I said unto the children of Israel, no soul of you shall eat blood, neither shall any stranger that sojourns among you eat blood. And whatsoever man there be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn among you, which hunts and catches any beast or fowl that may be eaten, he shall even pour out the blood thereof and cover it with dust.
So this is a beast that may be eaten. This is a clean beast. You're still not allowed to deal with any of that blood. You shall pour out the blood and then cover it with dust. So then you find out why they hang those things upside down to let them drain. They got to get all the blood out. Then you have, if you get, especially on some of the ish things, and they got kosher meats and they have certain parts, you notice that it says the fat belongs to Yahweh. They was cutting off all the fat. The certain parts of that fat that's on those parts of the meat, those would be cut off. That part belongs to Yahweh. You're not supposed to eat the fat. Go ahead.
Verse 14. For it is the life of all flesh. The blood of it is for the life thereof. Therefore I said unto the children of Israel, you shall eat the blood of no manner of flesh, for the life of all flesh is the blood thereof. Whosoever eat it shall be cut off.
All right, let's go to our Hebrews chapter 10. Hebrews chapter 10, and we're going to read verses 1 through 14.
Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 1. For the law having a shadow of good things to come, and not the very image of the things, can never with those sacrifices which they offered year by year continually make the comers thereunto perfect. For then would they not have ceased to be offered, because that the worshippers, once purged, should have had no more conscience of sins. But in those sacrifices there is a remembrance again made of sins every year. For it is not possible that the blood of bulls and of goats should take away sins. Wherefore when he comes into the world, he says, sacrifice and offering you would not, but a body have you prepared me.
A body have you prepared me. So from the beginning, we see that there's always this shedding of blood that had to happen to make an atonement for sin. But these animals was just given unto us until a rightful body was found. Because from the beginning, it had to be a man. So you read and you understand. When you understand that, when you go back to the beginning of this book, you'll understand why those strange people who worship all those strange gods, you understand why they sacrifice people. So you look and you think, man, they was really off on some other stuff. No, the adversary, the devil, just got to them first. Yahweh said, okay, I'm going to give you something in the meantime until I find a body, a man that is able to take on the sin of man. The people who worship all other stuff, they sacrifice men all the time. That's why he got mad at the children of Israel and said, who told you to burn your children in the fire? Who told you to do these things? You go back to the Mayans. They had live sacrifices. They cutting their heart open while they still breathing to offer it up to the sun god. So you look and you think, man, these people must be strange. No. They are sacrificing men. They got the same story. Do understand, the evil angels and the good angels got the same story. But do understand that evil set up its reign first. Cain had already set up his stuff on the earth. So once Yahweh drowned that seed, the adversary had to put another thought process within man to have that evil seed upon the earth. So they understand about the sacrifices. So they've always been doing the sacrifice. You have to wonder, why did he taunt Abraham and said sacrifice the boy? Sacrificing men was normal practice. See, this is what happened when you get knowledge out of order. See, I've heard some people say, why would God be upset with them eating from the tree of knowledge? Because knowledge too early get you killed. Because you apply the things in the wrong order. See, Yahweh didn't want us to start dealing with a man sacrificing men, because nothing that we would have done was going to be good enough. So I'm going to give you this animal until I find a body. And then once I find a body, that would be the rightful sacrifice for all men. But the adversary ain't wait for that. He told all his people, no, y'all need to sacrifice each other. So they found virgin kids and all this kind of stuff. They did a whole lot of sacrifice. Go ahead.
Hebrews chapter 10 and verse 6. In burnt offerings and sacrifices for sin you have had no pleasure. Then said I, lo, I come, in the volume of the book it is written of me, to do your will, O Elohim. Above when he said, sacrifice and offering and burnt offerings and offering for sin you would not, neither had pleasure therein, which are offered by the law. Then said he, lo, I come to do your will, O Elohim. He takes away the first, that he may establish the second. By the which will we are sanctified through the offering of the body of Yahshua the Mashiach once for all. And every priest stands daily ministering and offering oftentimes the same sacrifices, which can never take away sins. But this man, after he had offered one sacrifice for sins forever, sat down on the right hand of Elohim. From henceforth expecting till his enemies be made his footstool.
From henceforth expecting till his enemies be made his footstool. So he will not return here with flowers and loving hugs. So all of these people are being set up for destruction, because they're expecting God is love. No, no, no. You do remember he was beaten and tortured and killed last time he was here, right? Imagine if that was your last trip somewhere. That you got beaten, tortured, and killed. Not just killed. They drug out the killing. The killing could have been like this. No, 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 no. They drug it out. What you think gonna be your mindset next time you visit that place? We have a bad experience in the city. We don't want no, man. I don't want to go back to that city, man. I went to that city before. It was bad stuff happening there. What you think Yahshua gonna do when he come back? Expecting till his enemies be made his footstool. Go ahead.
For by one offering he has perfected forever them that are sanctified.
For by one offering he has perfected forever them that are sanctified. Now people then of course get this out of context, and then they take that to mean that they are forever sanctified and they are forever righteous no matter what they do. And that's one of those strange doctrines that's taught on Sunday morning, that there's nothing you can do to lose your salvation, and that is not backed up by what's written in this book. Let's go to 1 John chapter 2. It's just a couple pages back. First John chapter 2. And let's read verses 1 through 6.
My little children, these things write I unto you, that you sin not. And if any man sin, he have an advocate with the Father, Yahshua the Mashiach, the righteous. And he is the propitiation for our sins.
So when you look up this thing, go to this definition, propitiation. We have the Greek word is halasmos, which in the Greek is 2434, which then means atonement. So now we're discussing the atonement, but if you don't understand the words, when you see propitiation, you don't really get that. So you have a whole lot of people that even when they deal with the Messiah and the things that happen concerning Passover, they're not attributing the atonement properties to the blood that was shed. So you'll read right past that because you don't know that propitiation, halasmos, means atonement. Because see, understand, we're going from in one part where it was written in Hebrew to another part where it's written in Greek. So then they have different words for those things. So there's some word definition that you have to do, because without doing that, you really don't get that they're talking about atonement here, because you don't define that word. When you get to a word that you don't understand, don't just keep going. Stop. You have to get the kids in the habit of doing that when they're doing their reading. Don't just keep going. You get to a word that you don't understand, stop reading. Go back, look up the word. Otherwise, you'll read that, but you still ain't gonna understand what it means. Go ahead.
And he is the propitiation for our sins, and not for ours only, but also for the sins of the whole world.
So he is the atonement. So you have a whole bunch of new so-called New Testament keepers who don't deal with anything of atonement because they didn't see the word atonement in this passage. Go ahead.
And hereby we do know that we know him, if we keep his commandments.
So now you have atonement then, which is in verse 2, then attached to what's in verse 3, keeping the commandments. We got televangelists coming on every week saying, don't even worry about keeping the Big Ten. You ain't got to worry about the law. Yet we have two verses back to back. One is talking about atonement. The next one is talking about keeping the commandments. And they're teaching you don't have to keep any of it. Go ahead.
He that saith, I know him, and keeps not his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him.
Right. And that's what I do when I'm watching the TV and I see him on there. I be like, liar! You a lie! My TV get more communication than y'all would know. I be in that TV, we have conversation. See, because that's a liar. According to what's written in here. If you got a problem with it, go see the Mashiach. I didn't put it in here. Anybody telling you not to keep the commandments and the Big Ten don't have to be the book say he a liar, not me. So people get mad because I vocalize what the book say. The book has testified against him that he is a liar. I don't care how many people you get in there. I don't care how many jets you buy. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care how many Bentleys you get. You a liar. So says this book. Go ahead.
But whoso keeps his word, in him verily is the love of Elohim perfected. Hereby know we that we are in him. He that says he abides in him ought himself also to walk, even as he walked.
And how did the Mashiach walk? He kept his father's law. That's how he walked. He kept his father's holy days. That's how he walked. He kept the Sabbath. That's how he walked. Let's go to Numbers chapter 25. Numbers chapter 25, and let's read verses 1 through 13.
Verse 1. And Yisrael abode in Shittim, and the people began to commit whoredom with the daughters of Moab.
Right. Then, in doing so, this is why Yahweh says stay away from these strange nations, because they have strange cultures. It's not about Yahweh being some a racist God or anything of that nature. This is about culture and Israel keeping the culture that was given unto them. Yahweh knows from the beginning. Yahweh created man, gave man a woman, gave man some instructions. The woman said something, the man turned around and followed the woman instead of what Yahweh had gave him. So Yahweh was already saying, all right, it's certain kind of women you need to be with because you got a problem following the instruction. See? So he already is saying, all right, the women you deal with have to be within some kind of culture. And the further you are from dealing with somebody in your culture, the stronger you got to be. And people don't consider that. The further you go away from your culture, the stronger you got to be to keep it. Moshe was married to a woman of a different nationality. What happened when it got time for that circumcision? Oh, they were fighting, Jack. They were fighting. She did the circumcision and then threw the foreskin at his feet, saying, you are a bloody husband. But the angel of Yahweh was going to kill him if he didn't get that circumcision done for that child. So at the end of the day, when it come down to spiritual things, I don't care who you're married to. You got to win that fight. What color the drapes is, Yahweh don't care. What color the house is, Yahweh don't care. What kind of car you drive, Yahweh don't care. When it comes to the spiritual things about what you got to do with you and your house, that Yahweh cares about. Go ahead.
Verse 2. And they called the people unto the sacrifices of their gods. And the people did eat and bow down to their gods. And Yisrael joined himself unto Baal Peor, and the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Yisrael. And Yahweh said unto Moshe, take all the heads of the people, and hang them up before Yahweh against the sun, that the fierce anger of Yahweh may be turned away from Yisrael. And Moshe said unto the judges of Israel, slay you every one his men that were joined unto Baal Peor.
All right, this getting interesting here. Moshe said unto the judges of Israel, slay you every one his men that were joined unto Baal Peor. Go ahead.
And behold, one of the children of Israel came and brought unto his brethren a Midianitish woman in the sight of Moshe, and in the sight of all the congregation of the children of Israel, who were weeping before the door of the tabernacle of the congregation.
Now consider something now. Moshe was in Midian, right? Moshe was married to a Midianite woman. Yet this brother brought a Midianitish woman, and the plague broke out. It's got to be a difference then. See, now we're dealing with culture and how people walk. See, no matter what happened, Moshe wasn't going to not allow that culture in his house. Didn't matter who he was married to. This is the way this culture going to be in this house. What do you think that people think is cute when they quote the little part in the Bible? As for me and my house. They don't even know what it means. As for me and my house, this is the culture that's going to be followed in this house. See? People they read it and they think it's cute, but they really don't understand it. As for me and my house, this is what's going to be done in this house. Go ahead.
She was the daughter of a priest, right?
Yeah, she was the daughter of a priest. And then Yahweh sent him to that man to learn how to be a priest. So when it got down to it, she was arguing about certain things that she didn't understand. But she was a daughter of a priest, so she then knew how to get herself back in line even when she didn't agree. See, that's a different kind of woman. So you got some that just gonna fight to the death. Wrong at the day alone. Still fight. Wrong, just wrong. Upside down wrong. Wrong all day and all night. Still gonna fight. Right. Y'all like, no. See, them gonna cause you a problem when it's time to walk. See, they gonna cause you, either they need to change how they operate, or it's gonna be some problems. You have to realize what it says. Those who have forsaken houses and have forsaken wives. Why would a man have to forsake his wife? Because he can't walk in this word with her. And if you give me that ultimatum, you're gonna be standing on that curve right there. Because my destination is Zion or bust. And anything that stopped me from getting there, it's got to go. I don't care who you is. If you stop me from going that way, I'm making it to Yahshua. And anything getting in my way, getting ran over. Go ahead, bro.
Numbers chapter 25 and verse 7. And when Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, saw it, he rose up from among the congregation and took a javelin in his hand. And he went after the man of Israel into the tent and thrust both of them through, the man of Israel and the woman through her belly.
See, these brothers ain't playing about their word. They not playing. They not playing. They not sitting over there playing church and talking church. God is love. Yeah, it was love when that javelin went through the belly.
Love for my people.
See? Go ahead.
So the plague was stayed from the children of Israel.
Wait a minute. So once he brought the Midianitish woman who had the strange culture, the plague has begun among Israel. So whereas we see one thing, here's the problem. Do we see the things that's happening unto us? The problem is, do you even see the plague? So you got Israel dying, and it may look like they dying for one reason or another. The plague done broke out. Do you even have spiritual eyes to see why the plague has broke out among you? That's all you hear. Folks talking about, oh man, why me? Oh, woe is me. I got this happening. I got that happening. Right. Take a few steps back. Why is the plague among you? See, we got spiritual amnesia when it comes down to that. Go ahead.
And those that died in the plague were 20 and 4,000.
20 and 4,000. 20 and 4,000 people dying. Go ahead.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, has turned my wrath away from the children of Israel, while he was zealous for my sake among them, that I consume not the children of Israel in my jealousy.
Right. So then when you deal with that, just like you read Ruth and Boaz, you find out that this woman was, she was from Moab and Ammon, one of them. She was not of Israel, but this woman ended up being David's grandmother. What was the difference? She changed her culture. She changed her culture without a man. She said, look, my people are going to be your people and your God going to be my God. It wasn't even no man. She was like, look, I can't have. Naomi said, I can't have a kid. And you married a kid, you're going to be too old. What? Don't follow me. Go back to your own people. She said, no, I ain't going back to my own people. I'm going with you. That was a different kind of heart in that woman. See, it wasn't about her nationality. See, Yahweh's not dealing in some racist thing. And when people don't understand that, and you got those people teaching you, you got some serious problems. But Yahweh is serious about his culture, though. And that doesn't matter who you are. He's serious about his culture. Go ahead.
Verse 12. Wherefore say, behold, I give unto him my covenant of peace, and he shall have it, and his seed after him, even the covenant of an everlasting priesthood.
Everlasting priesthood. Go ahead.
Because he was zealous for his Elohim, and made an atonement for the children of Israel.
Now, he made an atonement for the children of Israel. Yahweh says he was zealous, and I'm going to make an everlasting priesthood. Because instead of standing around and complaining, talking about, look at all these people dying. Oh my goodness, why is this happening to us? Oh God. No, he said, I know why I got in here and take care of this business. You and her finna die. Now, we're going to understand why. Let's go to Numbers chapter 35. See? There was a serious method for why he operated in that fashion. Numbers 35, and let's read verses 30 through 34.
Numbers 35 and verse 30. Whoso kills any person, the murderer shall be put to death by the mouth of witnesses. But one witness shall not testify against any person to cause him to die.
Now wait a minute. Phineas he just murdered 2 people, didn't he? Didn't he just kill them people? Wait a minute. So, but Yahweh made a covenant with him, told him he was going to be an everlasting priest for killing people? Well, he got promoted for that? Keep reading.
Moreover, you shall take no satisfaction.
Satisfaction.
No satisfaction.
Right. I know it got you. It got you. It just ain't all together, brother. They just had to go to the next line. It ain't that deep. It just.
Moreover, you shall take no satisfaction for
satisfaction, brother. Brother, why you keep trying to Jamaican this thing, bro? Why you can't man, bro? We in America, don't treat it. Don't treat it. 1, 2, 3. Don't treat it, bro. Alright? Just read it, bro.
Take no satisfaction for the life of a murderer.
Okay.
Which is guilty of death, but he shall be surely put to death. And you shall take no satisfaction for him that is fled to the city of his refuge, that he should come again to dwell in the land until the death of the priest. So you shall not pollute the land wherein you are.
So you shall not pollute the land where you are. Keep reading.
For the blood, it defiles the land.
Blood defiles the land. Go ahead.
And the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it.
Oh, so Phineas couldn't stop the plague until he killed the people who brought the plague in. See, there's a method to the madness. He wasn't just doing some stuff. The plague was brought in by them, and only by shedding the blood of them does the plague go away. See, blood defiles the land. Now you got to think about how foul this land is because of all the blood that's been shed in the great US of A. It's going to have to be an atonement made for that. Did you finish it up, bro?
Defile not therefore the land which you shall inhabit, wherein I dwell. For I, Yahweh, dwell among the children of Israel.
So when we got here, this land was already defiled. They had already killed off a whole bunch of Indians before we got here. People that they call Indian because they thought they was in India. And here it is, we live in stolen property that we call houses, and we all proud of it. Home ownership. Right. You mean that stuff they stole from them people with the feather in the hat? You mean that? and then you built the house on it, and then they gave you a mortgage, right? It's stolen property. If I get caught with a CD player that they just stole out of somebody's house on the corner, they're going to tell me, hey, bro, we charge you with theft by receiving. That's what happened when black people get caught with stolen stuff. When white people get caught with stolen stuff, they get them a deed. It's different when that works. Say, after they come and steal everything, they just fix. Same thing happened with them houses up in Forsyth County. When they ran all the black people out of Cumming, Georgia, they took their houses. You go back to the deed of the recorder's office where they got all the deeds. There's a blank spot in between where the black people had the house, and then all of a sudden they got these mansions. So them people went in there and asked, excuse me, what happened to the deed right here? Because in each one of these things, there's a transference from the deed from one person to one person. And these black people that own, they're $1 million properties on this land that they stole from black people. They have no transfer of deed from the black person to the Gentiles who came, killed them, ran them off. Now all of a sudden they got the property. There's no transfer. You just see a little gap where all of a sudden this person got. How you change the paperwork? And every time they call them to the table on it, nobody answers. So they allowed them to change the paperwork and know they stole the houses. We'd be under the jail if that was us. But then again, Yahweh did say you're going to be punished 7 times more for your sins. Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 5. And every time you have one of those things, there's a reason why you see that on the news. You see those dudes who go into take them houses, and they say they sovereign citizens or something like that. You know, there's a lot of times those brothers be in $1 million houses, and they would end up moving in the house, setting up all this paperwork, and doing all of these things, right? And half the time they can't get the brothers out. And you wonder, how are they able to do that? Well, they just read what they figured out. This is what y'all been doing. So they really don't, the local authorities don't have an answer for those brothers. So they have to call in GBI and FBI to try and get those brothers. You have to ask yourself, wait a minute, how is that legal? How are they able to just steal somebody's houses? Because they know that's been happening in Marietta and Alpharetta to us by other people for hundreds of years. They've been stealing our stuff. But they want to show you these brothers on TV saying, you know, these brothers are doing it. Right, because they found out what y'all were doing. And they do it, and they purposely go after bank-owned properties, and they do it and just be sitting there bold. They film the brothers be talking in the TV. I was like, that dude crazy. But they trying to make a point. So y'all been doing this to us. Taking our land, changing the deeds. But somehow, there's this gray area in the law that somehow allows them to do it. Interesting. Very, very interesting. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, and let's start with verses 1 through 11.
For we know that if for our earthly houses of this tabernacle were dissolved, we have a building of Elohim, an house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. For in this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed upon with our house, which is from heaven. If so be that being clothed, we shall not be found naked.
Right. In the beginning, man sinned, and they tried to cover themselves with fig leaves. All right. Go back to what we had in the beginning. Atonement, kafar, means to cover. So they tried to atone with a fig leaf. And it was not an adequate covering. Why? Because it was not able to make reconciliation. It was just to cover their physical nakedness. But it did not cover the spiritual part of their sin. Go ahead.
Verse 4. For we that are in this tabernacle do groan, being burdened, not for that we would be unclothed, but clothed upon that mortality might be swallowed up to life. Now he that has wrought us for the selfsame thing is Elohim, who also has given unto us the earnest of the Spirit. Therefore we are always confident, knowing that while we are at home in the body, we are absent from the Adonai.
Now, this right here got a whole lot of people talking about. You see, that's why as soon as Junebug died, he was right there with the law. He was with the law. He closed it, and he was in there with the law. The law, Moses told him, "Come on, sit down right here." Right. This is how we get them fairy tales. But you know what happened with fairy tales? They need you to stop at a certain place. Because if you keep reading, it busts that fairy tale to shreds. Go ahead.
For we walk by faith, not by sight. We are confident, I say, and willing rather to be absent from the body and to be present with the Adonai.
You see that? Junebug out of his body and he with the law right now. Right. Keep reading.
Wherefore we labor, that, whether present or absent, we may be accepted of him. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of the Mashiach.
They didn't read that part. They didn't read that part. See, it had to be done. See, now Junebug now got to sit before the judgment seat of Christ. You ain't never heard nobody. When have you ever heard somebody brag about, my baby is sitting before judgment right now? Nah, ain't nobody brag about that one. Ain't nobody brag. I ain't heard a person brag about that yet. But they already in heaven though. But see what happened when you have to keep reading? We all got to sit before the judgment seat of Christ. But wait a minute. You got televangelists saying God ain't angry with you. You ain't got to worry about no law. You can't have judgment without law. You can't judge nothing without law. You got to have rules to judge anything. Go ahead.
That everyone may receive the things done in his body, according to that he has done, whether it be good or bad.
Right. So you have to receive that what was put out, either good or bad. You don't hear that bragged about in the funeral either. See? All we hear is how our loved ones are up in heaven right now. Go ahead.
Knowing therefore the terror of the Adonai, we persuade men, but we are made manifest unto Elohim, and I trust also are made manifest in your conscience. For we commend not ourselves again unto you, but give you occasion to glory on our behalf, that you may have somewhat to answer them which glory in appearance and not in heart. For whether we be beside ourselves, it is to Elohim, or whether we be sober, it is for your cause. For the love of the Mashiach constraineth us, because we thus judge that if one died for all, then we are all dead. And that he died for all, that they which live should not henceforth live unto themselves, but unto him which died for them, and rose again. Wherefore henceforth know we no man after the flesh. Yes, though we have known the Mashiach after the flesh, yet now henceforth know we him no more. Therefore if any man be in the Mashiach, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new.
Right. That if any man be in the Mashiach, he is a new creature. All things are passed away. This baptism giving us this opportunity to be born again. It says, unless a man is born again, he shall not inherit the kingdom of heaven. So this baptism must be done. That gives that new birth, that separation between the old life and the new life. Those things then have to be wiped away. We have to start over, so we have that forgiveness. But then there's still that thing of atonement that's hanging out there. Go ahead.
Verse 18. And all things are of Elohim, who has reconciled us to himself by Yahshua the Mashiach.
Right. Now, if you don't understand that atonement and reconciliation is the same thing, you're still reading this New Testament and you're still not seeing atonement. Go ahead.
And has given to us the ministry of reconciliation.
To
wit, that is, Elohim was in the Mashiach, reconciling the world unto himself, not imputing their trespasses unto them, and has committed unto us the word of reconciliation.
So he's basically saying atonement, 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 atonement. But because people don't see the word atonement, and their teachers are not explaining that to them, they wonder, what y'all talking about? Y'all about to keep atonement in a couple of days. What are you talking about? What is that? It's called reconciliation. Yeah, you read it all the time in the New Testament. What? Y'all worshiping some crazy stuff. I ain't never heard of that. Right. Right. Go ahead.
Now when we are ambassadors for the Mashiach, as though Elohim did beseech you by us, we pray you in the Mashiach's stead, be you reconciled to Elohim, for he has made him to be sin for us.
Now, when you deal with this word reconciliation, in Greek is katalage, which is restoration to divine favor or atonement. In the Greek, 2643. So we have reconciliation, which is still atonement. So there's certain things. This is why you have to do some word definition, so then you can put those two things together and understand, wow, they're directly related. But without having that definition, you do not correlate these things together as being the same thing. This is how you have people who start in the beginning or start at the end of this book reading just the New Testament, and they have a total different doctrine than what we have. It's because they don't understand what it is they're reading. And those people will argue with you and tell you you're the one that's off, because they don't understand. First thing, my kids homeschool, and when they give them, you know, their lessons, you'll find in the beginning, they got word definitions first. Then they have them read these things. So then as they start reading the things, they go through the word definition things first. So when they come across certain words, they say, oh, I understand this in the story because I read the word definition of what that word means. Otherwise, you're just throwing words up against a wall. That's all you're doing when you don't understand what the words mean. Like I can highlight a lot of things in Spanish. Julio Iglesias and Chessman, that's blue jabbar. But if you don't understand anything that, all you know is that, yeah, Julio Iglesias. Yeah. You don't know who that is. That didn't help you none. I just threw some words up against the wall. Did you finish that, bro?
The ending part. Who knew no sin, that we might be made the righteousness of Elohim in him.
All right. So where are we going next? Let's go to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians chapter 11. First Corinthians chapter 11, and let's read verses 24 through 32.
Verse 24. And when he had given thanks, he brake it and said, Take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. After the same manner also he took the cup when he had supped, saying, This cup is in the New Testament in my blood. This do you as oft as you drink it in remembrance of me.
Right. Now, he didn't tell them to go and make up some day to do it. They call this communion. They do it once a month. They have fake body and fake blood. He said, take this. This is my body. That's supposed to be unleavened bread. We have a holy day called unleavened bread. So then you take the unleavened bread, which is his body. Leaven is a representation of sin. So it is unleavened, without sin. Then you have the wine, which is the blood. What they do? They say grape juice is just as good. So they got fake body and fake blood, and then they do it on a day that ain't nobody told them to do it, every month. We had this thing called Passover. That's when you're supposed to do it. He already told you when to do it. But see, this is what happened when you start reading at the end of the book and you start directing yourself. Go ahead.
For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you do show the Adonai's death till he comes.
When did he die? I think that was Passover, right? Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Wherefore, whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of the Adonai unworthily shall be guilty of the body and blood of the Adonai.
Right. So when we come down to Passover, all people who have not been baptized in the name of Yahshua, I tell them not to take part in the body and the blood until they have taken their baptism, being baptized in the name of Yahshua. Go ahead.
But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of that bread and drink of that cup. For he that eats and drinks unworthily, eats and drinks damnation to himself, not discerning the Adonai's body. For this cause many are weak and sickly among you, and many sleep. For if we would judge ourselves, we should not be judged.
Wait a minute. For if we judge ourselves, we should not be judged. Well, then hold on now. So if we judge ourselves, then we start dealing with some of those things that we do ourselves. And as we repent and back away from those things, then we don't have to face judgment for that thing. So imagine you have people who remember things that you've done. Remember, they remember things that Saul had done. But then in his repentance and changing his life, as he stopped doing those things, he was no longer judged for the things that he had already done. See, there's a thing that people don't understand about atonement. See, you have an opportunity to provide a great portion of your own atonement by what you continue to do. Go ahead.
But when we are judged, we are chastened of the Adonai.
Okay, so when we are judged, we are chastened of the Adonai. So then when we go through certain things, all of the times we're not going through things because we've done something wrong. We're going through things because there's atonement that needs to be done for other things that we have done in this body. Because the last thing you want to do is wake up with something still on your account. See, when it's time to wake back up, you need your account clean. See, you don't need to get no spiritual NSF. When they give you one of them spirit, when you get a spiritual check bound, they be like, I'm sorry, sir, you don't have enough funds to cash this check. Go to hell. No. You need enough funds to cover this check that your tail done already written. You know what I'm saying? You done already wrote the check. You need to get you some spiritual funds in that account so you can pay that check when that check show up. See? And see, folks off in their own thing, they in their own, just like it said during the times of Noah, they were eating and drinking and marrying and partying until the day that it started to rain. And it's going to be the same thing here. You can talk to people all you want to talk to them. Yeah, that's for a long way off. Party! Right. Until destruction start coming, then they're like, take me with you. It was 10 virgins, right? 5 wise and 5 foolish. What happened? The 5 foolish told me, can we borrow some of your oil? See, you got to be wise enough to know you can't be nice to everybody. Boo-boo, you can't borrow my spirit. Boo-boo, I just got just enough spirit for me. Sorry, bye-bye. No, that ain't gonna work. You ain't getting none of mine. What happened if the Messiah come in the dark and I ain't got no oil? No, I ain't gonna be so nice that I'm gonna give away my spirit. Like I said, I'm making it the way Yahshua had, and anything stop me getting ran over. Go ahead.
That we should not be condemned with the world.
Is that it?
Yep.
All right, let's go to 1 Kings chapter 21. See, if you ain't careful, you let one of them smooth talkers talk you right out your spirit. Oh, you not your brother's keeper? I sure am, and I'm going to keep my brother right over there where he at, and me and my spirit is going forward. I'm not giving away my spirit. Somebody got to live to tell the story. And I nominate myself. That ain't going to work. 1 Kings chapter 21. And let's start that at verse 1.
And it came to pass after these things that Naboth the Israelite had a vineyard which was in Jezreel, hard by the palace of Ahab king of Samaria. And Ahab spake unto Naboth, saying, Give me your vineyard, that I might have it for a garden of herbs, because it is near unto my house.
Right.
And I will give you for it a better vineyard than it. Or, if it seem good to you, I'll give you the worth of it in money.
Right. So, his problem is his land just too good. Now, They do the same thing here. They just call it eminent domain. Well, they'll offer you some money for your land. They say, look, we want to build some condominiums right here. So sell us your land. You're like, no, man, it's my family land. I don't want to sell the land. All right, I'm going to make you one more offer and then I'm going to kill you. Which is pretty much what they do. Once they claim eminent domain, they take it. Go ahead.
I mean, even in this conversation, you get that to me and I'm going to give you a bitter vineyard. If you got a bitter vineyard, why you want mine?
Exactly. Well, I want yours because it's next to mine. See, I don't want to make mine large. See? Go ahead.
And Naboth said to Ahab, Yahweh forbid me that I should give the inheritance of my fathers unto you.
Right. Land is supposed to stay in the family. And he knew that when he asked. There's a certain part about covetousness that just make you, there's certain things that you just ain't supposed to go and ask nobody for. Can I have your spirit? What? Can I have your father's land? Excuse me? Can you have my father's land? What kind of covetous question is that? Go ahead.
And Ahab came into the house heavy and displeased because of the word which Naboth the Israelite had spoken to him.
I'm so mad you won't give me what I want. Go ahead.
For he had said, I will not give you the inheritance of my fathers. And he laid him down upon his bed and turned away his face and would not eat no bread.
What kind of grown man pout? Because he can't get somebody else stuff. And I ain't going to eat nothing. When? Don't nobody look at me. Go ahead.
But Jezebel his wife came to him and said unto him, Why is your spirit so sad that you eat no bread?
See, this is why you need to be married to a certain type of woman. Because, see, this is when the real sister need to be here. See, this is when the real sisters need to say, why are you so sad? Because I wanted his vineyard, he won't give it to me. That this is when the real sister of Yah is supposed to say, nigga, stop tripping. That ain't your stuff. Go ahead.
And he said unto her, Because I spake unto Naboth the Jezreelite, and he said unto him, Give me your vineyard for money, or else, if it please you, I'll give you another vineyard for it. And he answered, I will not give you my vineyard. And Jezebel his wife said unto him, Does you now govern the kingdom of Israel?
You see that? See, wrong type of woman to be married to. Because see, at least he was going to go sit on his bed and cry like a little baby. But now, evil has taken a whole nother step. Because now she like, you the king? Oh, what? I thought you was the king. I thought you was the king. You ain't governing. Go ahead.
Arise, and eat bread, and let your heart be merry. I'll give you the vineyard of Naboth the Israelite.
Let me show you how to do this. You don't know how to do this. Let me show you how to do evil. Go ahead.
So she wrote letters in Ahab's name, and sealed them with his seal, and sent the letters unto the elders and to the nobles that were in his city, dwelling with Naboth.
So she have your seal. So she get to write in your name and put your seal, because if it's got your seal on it, you said it. So you talking about a seal, which is a ring, they dip in the ink, boom, put it on the paper, everybody know what that is. She got your seal, she just write whatever she want. Go ahead.
And she wrote in the letters, saying, Proclaim a fast, and set Naboth on high among the people, and set 2 men, sons of Belial, before him, to bear witness against him, saying, You did blaspheme Elohim and the king, and then carry him out and stone him that he may die. And the men of his city, even the elders and the nobles who were the inhabitants in his city, did as Jezebel had sent unto them, and as it was written in the letters which she had sent unto them. They proclaimed a fast and set Naboth on high among the people.
Right. So they're going to set a fast so that they can do some evil. Go ahead.
And there came in 2 men, children of Belial, and sat before him. And the men of Belial witnessed against him, even against Naboth, in the presence of the people, saying, Naboth did blaspheme Elohim and the king. Then they carried him forth out of the city and stoned him with stones that he died.
Right. Judgment, accused, judged, and sentenced. Go ahead.
Then they sent to Jezebel, saying, Naboth is stoned and is dead. And it came to pass, when Jezebel heard that Naboth was stoned and was dead, that Jezebel said to Ahab, Arise, take the possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Israelite, which he refused to give you for money, for Naboth is not alive, but dead.
Right. See that pit bull right there. Well, a pit bull will kill one of your children and just bring the dead body and just lay it right there in front of you. See what I did for you? See what I did for you? Wagging his tail. Look at that. I did that. Look at that. Tell me I don't love you. See, look at that little dead baby. Look at that. I did that for you. There's nothing wrong with that kind of love. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, when Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, that Ahab rose up to go down to the vineyard of Naboth the Israelite, to take possession of it. And the word of Yahweh came to Eliah the Tishbite, saying, Arise, go down to meet Ahab king of Israel, which is in Samaria. Behold, he is in the vineyard of Naboth, whether he is gone down to possess it.
Right. Now, he didn't do all the evil deed, but he stood by silently and let every last bit of it happen. Go ahead.
And you shall speak unto him, saying, Thus said Yahweh, Have you killed and also taken possession?
Have you killed and have also taken possession? Go ahead.
And you shall speak unto him, saying, Thus said Yahweh, In the place where dogs lick the blood of Naboth shall dogs lick your blood, even yours. And Ahab said to Eliah, Have you found me, O my enemy? And he answered, I've found you.
Right. You found me? Yeah, I saw you. Yeah. When you were planning that evil, Yahweh was showing it to me. Go ahead.
Because you have sold yourself to work evil in the sight of Yahweh. Behold, I'll bring evil upon you, and will take away your posterity.
Your children.
And will cut off from Ahab him that pissed against the wall.
All the males.
And him that is shut
Y'all
up.
didn't know piss was in the Bible? That was the problem. You ain't know piss was in there? Like, what kind of stuff is that? See, I already know there's people on the internet. I can't believe that priest would say some of the words that he say. My God. Who was going to piss against the wall? Right. Those are men. When they're talking about piss against the wall, a man don't squat to pee. So when they talk about all that piss against the wall, he talking about not no real man. I don't know. I don't know if could be you rainbow children. I don't know how y'all pee. But when you get down to that, when they're talking about piss against the wall, it's talking about all the males. When it cut off all the males, that's all your posterity. There's nothing of your lineage to go on if it kills all the males. Because the women will be absorbed into another family. Go ahead.
And him that is shut up and left in Israel, and will make your house like the house of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and like the house of Baasha the son of Ahiah, for the provocation wherewith you have provoked me to anger, and made Israel to sin. And of Jezebel also spake Yahweh, saying, The dogs shall eat Jezebel by the wall of Jezreel. Him that dies of Ahab in the city, the dogs shall eat, and him that dies in the field shall the fowls of the air eat.
So, this thing has then been pronounced because of what they have done together. This is the judgment that's going to come. Go ahead.
But there was none like unto Ahab, which did sell himself to work wickedness in the sight of Yahweh, whom Jezebel his wife stirred up.
His wife stirred him up. She was able to just get him stirred up to do all kind of stuff. See? She say one thing, he gonna go on another high level of evil. Go ahead.
And he did very abominably in following idols, according to all things as did the Amorites, whom Yahweh cast out before the children of Israel. And it came to pass, when Ahab heard those words, that he rent his clothes, and put sackcloth upon his flesh, and fasted, and lay in sackcloth, and went softly.
So now, he has considered the evil and the evil things that have been said about him. Go ahead.
And the word of Yahweh came to Eliah the Tishbite, saying, See you how Ahab humbles himself before me? Because he humbles himself before me, I will not bring the evil in his days, but in his son's days will I bring the evil upon his house.
So even in humbling himself, when you talk about he was not able to restore that which he took away, but even in humbling himself, he has now delayed his punishment. But folk be so proud and they wrong. You catch them in the wrong, they try to explain the wrong. Well, when I did the wrong, I believed I was right at the time that I did it. So I'm really right, even though I'm wrong. What? Actually, I had a brother tell me that. Hebrew brother, too. Yeah. Let's go to 1 Timothy chapter 1. So you was right when you were wrong, even though you were wrong, because you believe you was right? Wow. Had to.
1275.
All right. First Timothy chapter 1, and let's start that at verse 1.
Saul, an apostle of Yahshua the Mashiach, by the commandment of Elohim our Savior, and the Adonai Yahshua the Mashiach, which is our hope. Unto Timothy, my own son in the faith, grace, mercy, and peace from Elohim our Father and Yahshua the Mashiach, our Adonai. As I besought you to abide still at Ephesus when I went into Macedonia, that you might charge some that they teach no other doctrine, neither give heed to fables and endless genealogies, which minister questions rather than godly edifying, which is in faith. So do.
Right, and you find you keep finding all these genealogy commercials where they talk about do your genealogy and all of this, so it can confuse you and give you a whole bunch of things. They don't even tell you that you know, that's a very small percentage of what they're able to test. So, but what they end up doing is telling you, oh, you 15% this, you 10% that. At the end of the day, the genealogy charts help merge everybody back into one. They even show you on the commercial. The dude gets the genealogy thing and said, I traded my kilt for some lederhosen. Once he got his thing. So now all of a sudden, his whole thought process of who he was has changed. See? So how else do you merge the people except giving them this whole thing of genealogy that merges everything together? If you're trying to create a one world government, you need the people to be merged together. Go ahead.
Verse 5. Now the end of the commandment is love, out of a pure heart, and of a good conscience, and of faith unfeigned, from which some, having swerved, have turned aside onto vain jangling.
That's what we hear on Sunday morning. A bunch of vain jangling. They read one verse, and the next hour and a half is about a whole bunch of mess. And even when they do read verses, they'll read one verse, and before the real understanding comes, they done jumped out of that book and jumped into something else. So at the end of the day, there are people that believe that they really read something. They haven't read one complete chapter, and they've been going to church 30 years. There's something wrong with that. Imagine if you encounter somebody that got a PhD and they ain't never read more than one chapter. How you get a PhD? You ain't never read more than one chapter? No, I just read a couple lines at a time. And you supposed to be my doctor? Something ain't gonna work here. Right. But these are people that we entrust with our salvation. But they ain't never read one chapter, one full chapter in 30 years. Something wrong with that. Go ahead.
Verse 7. Desiring to be teachers of the law, understanding neither what they say, nor whereof they affirm. But we know that the law is good, if a man use it lawfully. Knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and for sinners, for unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers and murderers of mothers, for menslayers.
Right, but understand now, there's this doctrine that said there's nothing that you can do to lose your salvation, and that's what's being passed onto people on Sunday morning. So if that's the case, that means you can do all of this stuff. But the word don't agree with that. Go ahead.
For whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, for men stealers, for liars, for perjured persons, and if there be any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine.
Any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine. It says for liars. People don't even consider that lying is held right beside murder. And folk lie like it ain't nothing. Lie for no reason at all. Ain't gonna get nothing out of the lie. Just lie. So what you tell that lie for? What you gonna get out of that lie? I tell you what you're gonna get. You're gonna get yourself in the lake of fire. Go ahead.
According to the glorious gospel of the blessed Elohim, which was committed to my trust. And I thank the Mashiach Yahshua our Adonai, who has enabled me, for that he counted me faithful, putting me into the ministry. Who was before a blasphemer and a persecutor and injurious. But I obtained mercy because I did it ignorantly in unbelief.
Right. Being raised as a Pharisee, understanding all of the things of the law, he was then persecuting all the people who believed in Christ. Saul did not walk with the Mashiach. Saul was called after the Mashiach. So when he was called, people didn't believe it. He was the one persecuting. He's done all of these things. Go ahead.
And the grace of our Adonai was exceeding abundant with faith and love, which is in the Mashiach Yahshua. This is a faithful saying and worthy of all acceptation, that the Mashiach Yahshua came into the world to save sinners, of whom I am chief.
Of whom I am chief. He didn't say I'm a glimmering thing of light up in here. You know what I'm talking about? Y'all need to follow me. He said, man, I'm chief sinner. Go ahead.
Howbeit for this cause I obtained mercy, that in me first Yahshua the Mashiach might show forth all long suffering, for a pattern to them which should hereafter believe on him to life everlasting.
I don't think people pay attention to that. Howbeit for this cause I obtained mercy. Okay? That in me first Yahshua the Mashiach might show forth all long suffering. Wait a minute. So he was called in suffering. Why? Let's go to Acts chapter 9. See, people say, you know, once I find God, life's supposed to be pretty good on out. I'm just supposed to just ride out in happiness. You know, I found God. I was looking for him. I couldn't find him nowhere. Then I found him. And once I found God, I expect that life is just going to be absolutely glorious. Acts chapter 9 and verses 1 through 18.
And Saul, yet breathing out threatenings and slaughter against the disciples of the Adonai, went on to the high priest.
So Saul was a spiritual bounty hunter. Yeah, I'm gonna find them people that believe in this Yahshua, and I'm gonna bring them to you, and y'all can kill them. This is why they was afraid of Saul. They believed that he was some kind of imposter when he came in talking about he in the word. They like, man, y'all better get him out of here. He finna kill us. Go ahead.
And desired of him letters to Damascus to the synagogues, that if he found any of this way, whether they were men or women, he might bring them bound unto Jerusalem.
Bound unto Jerusalem. Right. He a bounty hunter. Go ahead.
And as he journeyed, he came near Damascus. And suddenly there shined round about him a light from heaven. And he fell to the earth, and heard a voice saying unto him, Saul, Saul, why persecute you me? And he said, Who are you, Adonai? And the Adonai said, I am Yahshua whom you persecute. It is hard for you to kick against the pricks.
You have to really laugh at the deception of how the Euro Gentiles work. In verse 4, you notice it don't say Paul. So they called the Hebrew name of Saul, but then get down to verse 5, and instead of Yahshua, they got Jesus. So they got a Hebrew name at the top. So he spoke to him in Hebrew, but he called his name in Greek. Come on now. Come on. I'm going to need you to pay attention. He called himself a Greek name, but he called Saul his Hebrew name. See, if you don't see, that's what I say. When you just read my stuff. Say, yeah, I read all the Acts. Did you understand it? Because if you don't slow down, you get right past that. That's a mess. Go ahead.
Verse 6. And he, trembling and astonished, said, Adonai, what will you have me to do?
Automatically ask his instructions. All right, I've been on the wrong path. What you want me to do? Go ahead.
And the Adonai said unto him, Arise, and go into the city, and it shall be told you what you must do.
Right. I'm going to send you to somebody else, and they're going to give you instruction. That's our problem. We don't want to receive instructions but from certain individuals. Go ahead.
And the men which journeyed with him stood speechless, hearing a voice, but seeing no man. And Saul arose from the earth, and when his eyes were opened, he saw no man. But they led him by the hand and brought him into Damascus. And he was 3 days without sight, and neither did eat nor drink.
Right. So then he has fasted. He cannot see. There's a separation. Sanctification is given in threes. All of this thing is happening. Now, this is the same one who was in verse 1 breathing out threatenings and slaughter and bringing people bound. And now he can't see. Oh, there's some vulnerability right there. After you done did all this to people, and now people got to lead you by the hand, you can't even see where you stepping. See, Yahweh will change your position. See, when he change your perspective, people be talking about what they ain't gonna do. I ain't gonna do such and such. Oh, you just ain't got the right perspective yet. Hold what you got. Go ahead.
And there was a certain disciple at Damascus named Ananias. And to him said the Adonai in a vision, Ananias. And he said, Behold, I am here, Adonai. And the Adonai said unto him, Arise and go into the street which is called Straight, and inquire in the house of Yehudis for one called Saul of Tarsus. For, behold, he prays, and has seen in a vision a man named Ananias coming in, and putting his hand on him, that he might receive his sight. Then Ananias answered, Adonai, I have heard by many of this man how much evil he has done to your saints at Jerusalem.
He got a reputation. What they gonna say about you when they hear your name? See, that's why you need another name anyway. Because some of our reputations is really bad in that old name. Go ahead.
And here he has authority from the chief priest to bind all that call on your name. But the Adonai said unto him, Go your way.
Follow your instructions.
For he's a chosen vessel unto me, to bear my name before the Gentiles.
So he's going before the Gentiles. He told the disciples, he said, go not to the Gentiles. Go only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Now, this is the one called specifically to go to the Gentiles. So when you hear those people telling you that the Gentiles will not be able to achieve their salvation and they got all of this indignation against white people, they a lie and the truth ain't in them. Because Yahweh calls specifically this man to go and take the word to the Gentiles. And where did he go? Europe and Asia Minor. So that doctrine that they out there yelling on the corner, that's a false doctrine. It does not fit what's in this book. Go ahead.
And kings and the children of Israel. For I will show him how great things he must suffer for my name's sake.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. I will show him what great things he must suffer. Wait a minute. So he called in suffering? Why does he have to endure suffering for Yahshua's name's sake? Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 4. But see, when we get to being about ourselves, we like, hey, I ain't trying to suffer. What I need to be suffering for? 1 Peter chapter 4, and let's read verses 12 through 19.
Verse 12. Beloved, think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you, as though some strange thing happened unto you.
Right. And it is amazing when we go through things, we act like some strange thing, like we extra special. Like some strange thing that happened unto us. You do know somebody had to be tortured and died for you to be able to even sit here and have this book read to you. Go ahead.
But rejoice, inasmuch as you are partakers of the Mashiach's suffering.
You are partaker of his sufferings. Go ahead.
That when his glory shall be revealed, you may be glad also with exceeding joy.
See, there's some people he's going to appear and it's going to be joy. And other people he's going to appear and it's going to be for their shame. Go ahead.
If you be reproached for the name of the Mashiach, happy are you, for the spirit of the glory and of Elohim resteth upon you. On their part he is evil spoken of, but on your part he is glorified. But let none of you suffer as a murderer, or as a thief, or as an evildoer, or as a busybody in other men's matters.
There's things that we don't even consider evil. Being a busybody in other people's matters. We don't even consider that as evil. But he said, let none of you suffer in that. Go ahead.
Yet if any man suffer as a Christian, let him not be ashamed.
If you suffer being a follower of the Mashiach, let him not be ashamed. Go ahead.
But let him glorify Elohim on this behalf.
Let him glorify Elohim that he is able to suffer as a follower of the Mashiach. That's worthy of being glorified. Go ahead.
For the time has come that judgment must begin at the house of Elohim.
Judgment must begin at the house. Go ahead.
And if it first begin at us, what shall the end be of them that obey not the gospel of Elohim? And if the righteous scarcely be saved, where shall the ungodly and the sinner appear? Wherefore, let them that suffer according to the will of Elohim commit the keeping of their souls to him in well-doing, as unto a faithful creator.
Right. So you understand, Saul then being called in suffering, understand, Saul got a new beginning. He was baptized. But then you have the atonement for all those various things that he had already done in that body. The suffering that he was called into, because this was going to be a very difficult job. So you have to look from Yahweh's point of view. So he's looking and saying, I need somebody to take this word to the Gentile. But man, whoever take this word to the Gentile is going to suffer greatly. Now, who can I call that's got an extensive past that they need to work off some evil? You know what? Call Saul. I got to get, come on over here, bro. Boy, you done threatened and killed all kind of people. I got a job for you. And in the suffering that you're going to go through, it's going to be atonement for the stuff you did back there. See, we don't consider any of that. We too busy in our own thing of woe is me. Deuteronomy chapter 8. Because we don't caught selective amnesia about all that stuff that we done done. See, we got a baptism and we think that all them evil deeds was at the bottom of the water. Like your dead bodies floating at the bottom of the water. You hold that in the water. All in water. No, man, all that ain't in the water. Deuteronomy chapter 8. And we don't consider it a blessing and an honor. Because do understand, there are many people that have not gotten the opportunity to work theirs out. So what you think they're going to wake up to? They didn't get the opportunity to work theirs out. What you think they're going to wake up to? So we don't consider it a blessing. We whining the whole way. He's taking care of us. He's leading us down the path of atonement. And the rocky your road was in your rearview mirror, that's how rocky the road got to be in front of you. Deuteronomy chapter 8, and let's read verses 1 through 5.
All the commandments which I command you this day shall you observe to do, that you may live and multiply, and go in and possess the land which Yahweh sware unto your fathers. And you shall remember all the way which Yahweh your Elohim led you these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble you and to prove you, to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or no.
So he did these things to humble you and to prove you and to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or no. Go ahead.
And he humbled you and suffered you to hunger.
Wait a minute. So part of suffering you to hunger was a thing of humbling you. So then when you have this atonement and he's saying, deny yourself. Deny yourself these things is an opportunity to humble you. But that ain't what we see. We just see that we don't get what we want. And we all about what we want. And we want what we want already. We wanted it when we thought about it. And we wanted to know why we ain't already have it. Go ahead.
And fed you with manna, which you kneweth not, neither did your fathers know, that he might make you know that man does not live by bread only, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh does man live.
Right. So he fed you with the same thing continually, that you might understand some things. But what did we do? Man, I'm tired of this light bread. I don't want to eat no more angel food. Go ahead.
Your raiment waxed not old upon you, neither did your foot swell these 30 years.
These 40 years.
These 40 years.
The raiment wax not old upon you. Man, I got half a closet I can't wear no more. Half stuff I can't fit in, the other stuff I done messed up. Your raiment wax not old upon you. We got walk-in closets full of stuff and go right in there and be arguing. I ain't got nothing to wear. There's a whole room full of clothes. Go ahead.
You shall also consider in your heart that as a man chastens his son, so Yahweh your Elohim chastens you.
Right. As a man chastens his son to grow him up in the right way, so does Yahweh do that thing to us. Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 10. But see, Yahweh don't discipline you, Lucifer's children. And then we get jealous because we want to know, well, why them people can do evil and don't nothing happen to them? Because they're Lucifer's kids. You don't go discipline the baby's kids. You just ask them, brother or broham, whose kids are those? Those are baby's kids. And they're absolutely unruly and wild and jumping off everything. Oh, okay, well, let baby deal with those kids. Yahweh do the same thing. Oh, them not my children. When he get to his, he like, boy, stop that. Little girl, sit down. Those are his kids. He disciplines his. Lucifer had to discipline his own. And Lucifer like when his kids do evil. So he's not disciplining his kids when they do evil. And then here we go, getting jealous about it. We want to know why they're able to do evil and don't nothing happen to them. You might want to consider who their dad is. Go ahead.
1 Corinthians chapter 10 and verse 1. Moreover, brethren, I would not that you should be ignorant, how that all our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea.
All right, they were under the cloud and all passed through the sea and were what?
All baptized onto Moshe in the cloud and in the sea.
So they were baptized coming out of Egypt and had no idea. Yahweh didn't explain jack to them. But they had a baptism. Yet you got people out on the corner talking about, I don't want to be baptized in no dirty water. Man, that's elementary concept. But you got people out here teaching. You got Hebrews that have never been cleansed, have never been born again. This word says, if you are not born again, you have no opportunity to enter into that kingdom. Talking about you baptized with the word. I ain't never heard such foolishness. But see, that's how you make a lot of money. Come up with a lot of strange doctrine. Instead of telling people they need a baptism, they need to buy all your fringe gear that you happen to be selling on the internet. And they can get a roll of fringe that they can just wrap around them and sew on everything they got. Just fringe it out. Just buy it by the foot. Just wrap it all around everything. That's how you make a bunch of money. Meanwhile, not one of them have been born again and cleansed. So you got a bunch of innocent people that are in jeopardy of dying a spiritual death because they're listening to the wrong people. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And did all eat the same spiritual meat, and did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was the Mashiach. But with many of them Elohim was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. Now these things were our examples, to the intent we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted.
Now these things were our examples, to the intent that we should not lust after evil things. What do you think that is out there for us to look out on the internet and see them people yelling and cussing people out, walking around looking like some kind of Power Ranger or something? Those things are given for you for examples, so that you can look and say, man, Yahweh sure saved me from that. Because some of us know that if Yahweh didn't direct us, we would have been right out there. When I first tried to go in this word, I tried to go into one of them militant places. And every time I went, wasn't nobody there. Yahweh was the one that saved me from that. He could have let you go to one of them places, and you'd have been somewhere calling yourself a captain or a colonel or something. Chanting. Lining up, marching in the street. Looking like Barney with a bunch of purple and stuff on. He saved you from that. He could have left you. But we don't consider that. He could have let you go to one of those places where all these people selling all their belongings and moving everything to another city. He could have let you go there. There are certain blessings that we don't even know to be thankful for because we didn't see the evil that we were saved from. But see, our problem, sometimes we got to see the danger that we were saved from. Like we need to drive and see the dead body and be like, oh, that was supposed to be me? Then we get it. Oh my goodness, I'm so glad to be alive. But we need to see a dead body before we can be glad to be alive. There's something wrong with that. Let's go to Leviticus chapter 6. But if that's what you need, don't worry, Yahweh will give it to you. He'll show it to you. Leviticus chapter 6, and let's read verses 1 through 7.
And Yahweh spake unto Moshe, saying, If a soul sin, and commit a trespass against Yahweh, and lie unto his neighbor in that which was delivered him to keep, or in fellowship, or in a thing taken away by violence, or has deceived his neighbor,
or have deceived his neighbor, go ahead,
or have found that which was lost, and lies concerning it, and sweareth falsely, in any of all of these that a man does, sinning therein, then it shall be, because he has sinned and is guilty, that he shall restore that which he took violently away, or the thing which he has deceitfully gotten, or that which was delivered him to keep, or the lost thing which he found, or all that about which he has sworn falsely. He shall even restore it in the principal, and shall add the 5th part more thereto, and give it unto him to whom it appertaineth, in the day of his trespass offering.
So then, if you have done this wrong, then you have to make that right. You have to restore that thing and then add the 5th part thereto. Here's the problem. We have things that we've done that we can't return. We have things that we've done that we can't add the 5th part to. Now you understand why Saul was called in suffering, so that he can work off that stuff that he can't return. See, after you done got somebody killed, you can't turn around and get no life back. How you gonna get it back? That's Yahweh that's got to go deal with that part. But you got to now work that off and let Yahweh do his thing. Yahweh gonna take care of it for you, but you gonna pay for that. See? Now you got to work that off. And we don't consider that that is a blessing, having the opportunity to work it off. Go ahead.
And he shall bring his trespass offering unto Yahweh, a ram without blemish out of the flock, with your estimation, for a trespass offering unto the priest.
Right. But we don't have an offering. We have already had Yahshua. We've had the best offering ever able to be offered. We don't have anything now to offer to restore those things which was violently taken away. So now Yahshua got to step into that. So now we owe him. Go ahead.
You know, sometimes in that repetitive nature of atonement that we don't understand, we tend to do like Cephas and start getting angry. When he kept asking him, loveth you me?
Right, right. Why you keep asking me that? Of course I love you. Well, feed my sheep. do this job I need you to do. But it's quite interesting when you're given a job to have and make atonement for your sins, and then you grow tired of the job that's actually ensuring your survival. That is interesting. Go ahead.
Verse 7. And the priest shall make an atonement for him before Yahweh, and it shall be forgiven him for anything of all that he has done in trespassing therein.
All right, let's go to John chapter 5. See, we have to consider the blessing of reconciliation and what those things mean, and we have to understand that it's not some magical thing that happens. See, that's part of that deception that we received before. That it was just this magical thing of reconciliation, that we were automatically reconciled because Christ was sacrificed and everything was over. But see, that's why the disciples said, have you come at this time to restore the kingdom unto Israel? He said, it's not for you to know the times and the season which the Father has set aside for himself. That ain't none of your business. You go ahead and do this work that I need for you to do. John chapter 5, and let's read 19 through 29.
Then answered Yahshua and said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, the Son can do nothing of himself, but what he sees the Father do. For what things soever he does, these also does the Son likewise. For the Father loves the Son, and shows him all things that himself does, and he will show him greater works than these, that you may marvel. For as the Father raises up the dead, and quickens them, even so the Son quickens whom he will.
For as the Father raises up the dead, and quickens them, even so the Son quickeneth whom he will. Go ahead.
For the Father judged no man, but has committed all judgment unto the Son.
So wait a minute, then there's still judgment once again. We're then dealing with judgment. This is written in red. This is the Mashiach talking. There is judgment that is going to be had through the Mashiach. Yet everybody telling you how much he loves you, and he's walking around in love, and he's ready to hug you, and he's just going to show up with a bunch of roses. Yet he's showing up with a bunch of judgment. And the only way to show up with a bunch of judgment is to show up according to law. Go ahead.
That all men should honor the Son, even as they honor the Father. He that honors not the Son, honors not the Father, which has sent him.
Right. And you can't honor the Son just by saying a bunch of niceties. See? Just by saying a bunch of nice words. That's not how you honor the Son. So I've been in situations where people said a lot of nice things about me to other people, but as soon as those people wasn't around, they was doing nothing but evil to me. They weren't honoring me by saying all these niceties in public. Go ahead.
Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that hears my word and believes on him that sent me has everlasting life, and shall not come into condemnation, but is passed from death unto life.
Has passed from death. So you got a lot of Walking Dead. People always want to watch them zombie shows, and they talk about the zombie apocalypse. We got a zombie apocalypse right now. You got a whole bunch of dead people walking. They just as dead. And all you have to do is wait and talk to them and listen to what come out of their mouth. And you can tell you got a real live zombie right in front of you. They just as dead. Everything come out of their mouth is dead. Go ahead.
Verily, verily, I say unto you, the hour is coming, and now is, when the dead shall hear the voice of the Son of Elohim, and they that hear shall live. For as the Father has life in himself, so has he given to the Son to have life in himself, and has given him authority to execute judgment also, because he is the Son of Man.
Right. So people are not expecting any judgment. But why are they not? These are the Gospels. These are the ones that they read and they talk about just how he has so much love, yet he's talking about judgment. And if you understand judgment, then you have to understand that there's some things about how I operate I have to change, because there's this thing of judgment that's going to come. But when you never consider judgment, you never consider that it's anything about you that you need to change. Go ahead.
Marvel not at this, for the hour is coming, in the which all that are in the graves shall hear his voice.
Wait a minute, they in heaven? Why they in the grave? I thought Cousin Junebug was already in heaven. Now how he in the grave, but he in heaven too? So he in two places. Go ahead.
And shall come forth, they that have done good, unto the resurrection of life.
Okay, so those who have done good have one resurrection. Go ahead.
And they that have done evil, unto the resurrection of damnation.
Now, it's going to be some real upset people when they realize that they've been brought back to life just to get thrown in the lake of fire. Good morning. Good night. It's going to be a bad situation. You get woke up just to tell you to go back to sleep. Put in that fire over there. Because see, now it's going to be weeping, wailing, and gnashing of teeth. Go ahead. But how were they set up for that? For all the lies that they were hearing every Sunday morning. For the lies that they were told, you don't have to do anything. God don't want you to change anything. And when you get off into that, you can speak this word to people. But when they are self-centered, like the strange doctrine told us to be, because that strange doctrine told us that we had a personal Lord and Savior. So you got your own pocket God. So he's just for you. You got your own personal pocket God. Where did we get personal Lord and Savior? So you got your own. So he got one, she got one. So you got so he's just for you. Right. So then you can do whatever you want and still have your salvation the way you want it. There's something seriously wrong with that thought process. Let's go to Revelation chapter 20. Go ahead, bro.
I was just say, you think about, we've got a judgment coming up, court case. Most people know they have a court case coming up that's going to decide whether they're going to be free or not. A lot of those people who have a change of heart, you see them get up there and start apologizing to everybody.
Yep.
Trying to make certain things right.
Yep.
We don't consider that that's coming at the end of life.
But see, some people don't consider court. When you consider court, you prepare yourself before you go. See? So, if you know you're going to court, the first time you go to court don't need to be the day that you on trial. If you already know you going to court, I'm going to court so I can look around before I go in there. Okay, so that's how they look, how they do that. Oh, this is how they call them. Okay, this is how they do that over there. I'm going to have all that. I want to understand the process before the day that my life on the line. But we act like we don't want to know that. We think we saved by the veil of ignorance. If I don't know, then he can't say nothing to me. I'm just going to tell him, Lord, I was stupid. Right, well, get your stupid self in the fire. Revelation chapter 20, and let's start with verse 1 through 6.
And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 8,000 years. So when we talk about this tabernacling, this is our spiritual fulfillment of tabernacling. The adversary will be bound for 1,000 years, and there will be 1,000 years of peace here on earth. Go ahead. And cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years shall be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahshua, and for the word of Elohim, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with the Mashiach 1,000 years. So they lived, all of those, it said, and this automatically fits what the Messiah said. In John chapter 5, there's going to be a resurrection of life, and there's going to be a resurrection of damnation. Here's the thing. Those two things are not happening at the same time. See, you'll learn that you spread these things out when you read and you see the order in which they go.
The resurrection of life, that's 1,000 years. Resurrection of damnation don't happen till after that. It's not like they happening at the same time. Go ahead.
But the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection.
Right. So the people who going to get thrown in the lake of fire, they're not going to even know that Christ has been on the earth for 1,000 years. So these are all the people that have been given that heaven doctrine, and they're going to wake up on earth to realize that they have missed 1,000 years with Christ. The 1,000 years will be over when they are awakened. Now they automatically going to be startled because they're going to realize that they're here on earth when they wake up. When you've been told that you was going to heaven, and then you wake up and you be like, wait a minute, is that Candler Road? What is that Candler Road right there? Why am I down here? So that's going to be the first startling part when you realize there ain't no clouds by you. Go ahead.
Blessed and holy is he that has part in the first resurrection. On such the second death has no power, but they shall be priests of Elohim and of the Mashiach, and shall reign with him 1,000 years.
And those people who are going to live during that, they're going to be priests of Elohim. Priests cover the head. The high priest got 2 coverings, and under priest had 1. That's why all these people that's going around teaching. You listen to that man got something on his head. He prophesying with his head covered. Right. Taking things and misappropriating them. Got our folks walking around not doing one thing that they should be doing and then doing something else that they ain't got no business doing. Go ahead.
And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the 4 quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea.
Now, you got to pay attention to something. Verse 5. The rest of the dead live not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Now jump to 7. And when 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. So Satan is loosed at the same time that the people who going into the lake of fire, they wake up and Satan get out at the same time. So you and your daddy come together. Right. So you done missed the whole sabbatical kingdom with the Mashiach, and you and Satan get woke up at the same time. So y'all can have one big family reunion. Wonderful. Go ahead.
And they went upon the breadth of the earth, and compassed the camp of the saints about, and the beloved city. And fire came down from Elohim out of heaven, and devoured them.
Right. And they believe they daddy Satan because they done got woke up with him. It's utterly amazing how, you know, the timing of these things. But you got some. You have to ask yourself about the people who have gone 1,000 years and have not dealt with any of these things. But as soon as the adversary is out, boom, he's able to go and deceive these people right away. Right away, they're able to be deceived and will come right back up to try and destroy the children of Israel. Go ahead.
And the devil that deceived them was cast into the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet are, and shall be tormented day and night forever and ever. And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them.
Right. This is great white throne judgment. Remember, now we read, it says, all shall have to come and sit before the judgment seat of Christ. But see, they told the people, don't worry about that stuff because you're going to float up to heaven. So you find that the stuff that's written is confirmed. The same stuff you read in other places, you go to Revelation and the same thing is there. Go ahead.
And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before Elohim, and the books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works.
Right. You got a book. There's a book of Kish. There's a book of Esau. There's a book of Barak. All y'all got a book. Ain't gonna open your book. And ain't gonna open this book. Then they're going to look in your book. They ain't going to look in this book. They ain't going to look in your book. They're going to look in this book. They're going to look in your book. They're going to look in this book. And you're going to be judged according to the things that you have done that's in this book, according to the things that's in this book. But you had an opportunity to erase some of the stuff in your book. See, if you judge yourself, then you be not judged. So then it's just like going to court. Some of y'all can understand this more than others. Sometimes when you go to court, they say, we'll strike out this because this can't be used against you in court. Remember that little thing they say you have the right to remain silent? Anything you say can and will be held against you in the court of law. Well, Yeshua said, if you judge yourself of these things, if you repent rightfully, when your court date comes, I will not allow this to be mentioned against you. See, this is how a lot of times people go free, and we don't understand how they go free. Certain evidence was stricken from the record, and it was not allowed to be mentioned in their case. See, there are certain people that they had already done that 3 or 4 times before, but that evidence was not allowed to be brought to the jury. You have an opportunity to strike out some of the things in your book, depending upon what you do here and now. Go ahead.
Verse 13. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them.
Right. And I always ask people, why they coming out of the water and coming out of the ground if they was already in heaven? See, now they coming up for judgment. Go ahead.
And they were judged every man according to their works.
Their works or their deeds, all the things that they've done. Now imagine the surprise that's going to be on these people's faces. That they've been awakened for judgment. And they thought that everybody died in Christ and went to heaven. Go ahead.
And death and the grave were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death.
This is the second death. See? So there's a separation between that first resurrection and that second resurrection. You want to be a part of the first. If you wake up, and my elder used to say it all the time, if you wake up and you done missed the first resurrection, ain't no need to even wait. Just go over there and find that lake and just jump right in. Just go and jump. If you wake up and you find out they done already had 1,000 years with Christ, just go ahead and swan dive in that lake. Go ahead. Go ahead and get you a nice place in the fire. Because that's where you're going to end up. Go ahead.
And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire.
All right. So let us consider these things when we understand how important reconciliation is, when we begin to think about what that atonement is and why we are denying our flesh for 24 hours, why we will go through that fast. We talk about our opportunity to be reconciled unto our Elohim. And that requires a little bit of suffering on our part. But it's a small bit of suffering. A very small amount of suffering. When you consider the whole picture. So let us consider those things as we get closer to our keeping of the atonement. Let me look at these days. And by the way, we're going to start doing our holy days, our count. So you need to go and pick you up one of these. They do have them online, so you can go and print out your days. It's an Old Farmer's Almanac 2018, so that we can work on our holy days. We go through a series of things to show everybody how to count the days. And once we go through those things over and over, then we set our days and we get our calendar set up for our next year. So we're going to start doing our Bible studies are going to be going over counting of the holy days. We do the same thing every year. So go ahead and start getting yours, whether you go online to print out what those things are. You need to have those things in front of you, because when we get ready to start counting, we have graphics that we put on the internet, but you're not going to be able to see that good, because it has all of these lines in it where you need to count. We put that on the internet. You're not going to be able to see all of those things to count your days. So go on the internet, print those things out, and get yourselves ready for that. Now we have Feast of Tabernacles coming. That is on Wednesday the 4th. So understand, brothers, well, we will have a Sabbath before that. So do understand and remember to sanctify yourselves against the third day, because we will be making our appearance on October 4th at sundown. That's all that we're going to do for today. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.